Hello friends, welcome to Agriculture Post. Today we have with us globally recognized agricultural scientist Dr. Rajeev Varshney. For his work, he has recently received Crop Science Award 2023 from Crop Science Society of America and has also been honored as Highly Cited Researcher from Clarivate, UK. Currently, he has been serving at Murdoch University for last 1.5 years. As an international chair in Agriculture and Food Security, Director State Agricultural Biotechnology Center and Director Center for Food and Innovation, Food Futures Institute, Murdoch University, Australia. Before that, he was with ICRISAT for 16 years, serving as Global Research Program Director. And I would like to talk to him about various dimensions of agriculture research in India and in other countries, how it is going to ensure the food security when we are already facing the adverse impacts of climate change. So how genome sequencing is going to fix this problem, and what other aspects in agriculture research the policymakers and researchers and the young generation should focus on. And first of all, welcome to Dr. Varshney.
Thank you very much, Mustaqim bhai, and thanks a lot to Agriculture Post for interviewing me. I'm really very excited to be here.
First of all, I would like to know a brief about your research work in agriculture sector.
So, as you mentioned that agriculture is facing lots of challenges, global challenges, among them population growth, climate change, land degradations, they are some of the key. But right now in the current scenario, we got a lot of geopolitical issues. So, because of these reasons, food security has become an important issue. For addressing this global problem, we have several possibilities. And what we are doing at our Center for Crop and Food Innovation with the Food Future Institute in Murdoch University, we are trying to deliver the genetic solutions. In this regard, what we are doing, we are decoding the genomes of the crops which are important for the food security. And after decoding those genomes, then we are trying to identify the genes associated with the different traits which are important in context of climate change. So, for instance, we are interested to identify the genes which can confer tolerance to the drought, confer resistance to different biotic stresses, and also can be linked with the nutritional traits. And once we identify these genes, then we can use these genes either through genomics assisted breeding or even the new methods like gene editing, so that we can deliver the better varieties in faster manner and the precise manner. So, this is the gist of our research program, that we are delivering the genetic solutions to deliver climate resilience, high yielding and nutritious varieties in relatively short time, faster and precise manner.
So, how do you see the important significance of genome sequencing for ensuring food and nutrition security while we are already facing the adverse impacts of climate change?
That's a very good point. So, what is happening? So, plant breeders, they have been developing these varieties in past as well. However, traditional breeding takes a lot of time, 8 to 10 years, because you make the cross, then develop some lines, put them in the field, and the line which is showing the good tolerance, then they can select and then they can continue to several generations. However, through the genome sequencing, and we can identify the genes. What does it mean? Like all individual, like either human, animal, plants, anything what you see, even as a human being, you and I look different. Why? Because we are having the different set of the genes. So, what is happening now? If you talk about chickpea, some varieties may be drought tolerant, some may be drought susceptible. What are those genes that they are making some varieties drought susceptible, some tolerant? So, through the genome sequencing, we should be able to identify the genes which are making a particular variety drought tolerant or susceptible. And if you can identify those genes, then you can use them in breeding processes, and we call this process genomics assisted breeding. So, genome sequencing technology can be very helpful to identify the genes in the context of the climate change. So, that's what we are trying to do. And I should also mention, as you mentioned in my introduction, when we were working at ICRISAT. At ICRISAT, during my stint about 16 plus years, in collaboration with different partners here in India especially ICR, Indian Council of Agriculture Research, state agricultural universities, and many other organizations in India, Africa, and Asia. What we have been doing, we decoded the genome sequences for chickpea, pigeon pea, pearl millet, groundnut, and many other crops. This was point number one. Point number two, as I said, by using these genomic resources while working together with the physiologist, plant pathologist, entomologist, breeders, we identified the genes. Third, together with the breeders, we deployed those genetic technology in the crop improvement, and I'm very happy to mention that ICR institutes, including IARI, Indian Agriculture Research Institute, Indian Institute of Pulses Research, Directorate of Groundnut Research, and several state agricultural universities, including PJT SAU in Hyderabad, University of Agriculture Sciences in Dharwad, University of Agriculture Sciences Gulbarga, Punjab Agriculture University. In India, they were able to deliver several varieties of chickpea for drought tolerant, groundnut variety for high oleic acid, pigeon pea variety for the fusurum wilt resistance, and now they are grown by the farmers. And I should also mention that our research did not deliver just varieties in India, but in several countries in Africa, including first drought tolerant chickpea varieties through genomics assisted breeding in Ethiopia. We got the lines in Kenya, in Tanzania. Same thing in the case of groundnut. We are having these advanced lines in Ghana, Nigeria, Mali. So we feel so happy to mention that through the genomics assisted breeding, we were able to deliver the climate resilient varieties, and they are grown by the smallholder farmers.
My next question is that the global population is already growing, and nutrition and food security is very important component for the survival of every individual human being. So how do you see the challenges in front of the investment, private sector investment in agriculture research, and how these challenges can be fulfilled?
Yeah.
Be tackled?
So this is correct, and especially when you talk about the population growth, India has become the most populous country. And as Prime Minister Modi says that Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, so one world, one family, one nature. So the whole world is having an obligation to feed 10 billion population by 2050. Now, if we would like to continue the business as usual, we may have lots of challenges. We need to come up with the new innovations, new ways to do the work. So what I believe, we need to do two quick things. One is rapid discovery system. So for developing the varieties, we need to embrace new technology. As I said about the genomics, gene editing. And this new technology, they are not only in the genomics or crop improvement, even in the agronomy sector. Second, rapid delivery system. So once you deliver these varieties to the farmers, they are reaching to the farmers in the real time. In many countries, India has done a great job, but in many countries still, farmers are having access to the varieties which are 10 to 20 years older. So now what we need to do, we need to deliver these varieties to the farmers in the real time. Next thing is, now in the era of the digital agriculture, farmers need to provide the decision support tools so that they know at what time they need to give the irrigation, what time spraying, and what time other things. So now we're saying agronomy. So farmers need to provide the agronomic packages. Third point is that once you got these produce in the farmer's field, we should try to avoid the post-harvest losses. Many farmers, they are losing this thing. For that, you need to have some infrastructure, so storage or so. Private sector play very important role, and I will come to private sector in a minute. Next thing is that farmers need to be connected to the market. Again, private sector can play very important role. Lastly, that when even the farmers are able to sell their produce in that attractive remuneration price or so, we need to think, can farmers be provided value addition technology, so that entrepreneurship, so that farmers, they are not getting just enough money, but then even consumer society is also benefited. What I wanted to say, the private sector plays very important role in the whole rapid delivery system, starting from the seed delivery, agronomy, decision support tools, post-harvest losses, connecting farmers to the market, and entrepreneurship. Somehow in India, we still don't have that much engagement of the private sector. If you see in India, in the space science, like in ISRO, this is typical example where private sector has come in a big way. And the good thing from that ISRO or space research is that government or general public can see the benefits quickly, that well, how many satellites we have launched through that ISRO technology, we got that much money. In the case of food security, these numbers are not seen, but you should remember that we need to feed 1.3 billion population. So what I'm trying to say that right now, what we need to do in the country, we need to enhance the investment in R&D, research and development, in both ways, from the government as well as private sector. From the government, research investment, if you see percentage of the GDP, India is investing about 0.7 to 0.8, not in agriculture, across all the different science. In my opinion, is not that big. If you see an average investment R&D rate around the world, this is about 6.8%. What we need to do as a country, when we are talking about Viksit Bharat, we are talking the developed country, $5 trillion economy, great thing. We need to see agriculture also in that space. We need to do our best, government needs to do, enhance the investment rate, at least bring 1.5%, pay more attention to agriculture, attract the private sector, bring them, so that not that we should not have just ISRO, we should have also ICAR, we should have the agriculture ministry, that they are embracing this power of the private sector, entrepreneurship. And if we are able to do these things, we should be able to give employment to our rural youth as well. So in all these directions, I believe that through the engagement of private sector, enhancing R&D investment from the government, we should be able to deliver much more better.
You have served as a research program director at International Crops Research Institute for Semi-Arid Tropics in Hyderabad for 16 years. Before that, you have been with many research institutions in India. Now you are based in Australia at Murdoch University, fulfilling the same job. How do you see the difference in the agriculture research ecosystem in India and as globally? What are the loopholes we should overcome to ensure the food security for the future?
Yeah, so I would like to give here an example of Australia. So if you see the country, because where I'm working now in Australia, Australia is 2.4 times bigger than India in terms of the land size. However, arable land is very, very low. In Australia, all agriculture be done just on the basic grains belt, little bit part in the Western Australia and in the Eastern Australia. Having said that, even the rainfall in many of these regions is not very high. So sometimes 300 to 400 millimeter per annum. Even then, and before that I would like to mention, not a single crop, the center of origin or domestication was Australia. Australia has brought all these different crops during last 200 years to Australia, but now even in those harsh environment, they are growing the crops and they have become the major exporters of agriculture in the world. Australia just consumes 1/3 of its produce and they export 2/3 of agriculture to the world. Now you ask this question in terms of the ecosystem. So what I'm saying that in Australia we are doing agriculture in the rain-fed agriculture. If you see the rain-fed agriculture in India and you see the comparison, the productivity in rain-fed agriculture for any crop including wheat or anything is not high number of regions. One is technology, seed technology. So what Australia has done, they have come up with this fantastic technology. So they are developing the varieties by using the best genetics technology. They are using agronomic technology. Though I understand difference between India and Australian agriculture is India we are having a small holding agriculture, in Australia we are having bigger farm size. But in Australia, agriculture is demand driven. For instance, if they need to deliver drought tolerant wheat, they come up with the call, they ask scientific community, we would like to develop the drought tolerant wheat varieties with so much productivity in next 5 years. Then scientists submit the proposal. Unlike here in India, whether farmers need or not, sometimes we are having more technology. So what we need to do, I'm just comparing Australia. So Australia agriculture research and development, this is demand driven. In India, we are having more technology push, which is okay, not a problem, but we need to cater the need. We need to have the technology push also, but we need to see from that demand driven perspective as well. I mentioned very heavy engagement of the private sector. For instance, in our research, when we are working for wheat pre-breeding, in all of our project, there is engagement of private sector. Engagement of private sector does not that they are just there, they also invest their money, their resources. In India, I doubt how many private companies they are working with the ICR Institute. Yes, we have some, but they are working more in the hybrid breeding, they just do the selling of the seeds. Now this is working further, this is improving, but what I'm trying to say that we need to change the ecosystem. We need to have the demand driven R&D, we need to have higher engagement of the private sector, we need to listen the needs of the farmers, we need to demonstrate our technologies to the farmers that they should be embracing that one, and we should have favorable policy environments for different new technology. And I should also mention, and I know that many of us we have been talking about that, gene editing. So earlier in India, because of number of regions, I will not go in this direction, but then somehow we were not able to harness the full potential of GM technology in the country. Some of our neighboring countries like Bangladesh, they are growing BT, brinjal for instance, we were not able to deliver that one.
What are the reasons behind stopping GM technology in India? We have been growing BT cotton for more than two decades. That we are still yet to enter the GM food technology.
Yeah.
We are importing GM food from the globe. We are consuming the imported GM food, but we are not growing it here in India. Although the technology is available.
Yeah.
What are the roadblocks?
So, well, I mean, scientifically, there is not an issue. However, we need to, because we are a democratic country, we need to have the public acceptance. So, as you mentioned, India has seen significant growth in the cotton production after deploying the BT cotton technology. India used to import cotton, but now they have become the net cotton exporter. So they have seen that. Yeah. However, some of times I will say some lobbies, and they have done more propaganda against the technology, and somehow the scientific community and our government were not able to mitigate or to address those things. But things have changed now, and in the area of the gene editing, because one of the key thing of that this opposition of the GM is that you are bringing gene from some outside. They think just some monster thing or so. But in the gene editing, we are not bringing any gene from the outside, you are just editing the gene. And this is the reason that Government of India, especially Department of Biotechnology, last year when they came with this new guidelines, so we don't have the issue, and government has organized lots of different consultation sessions or so, and I see that lots of acceptance increasing. So I believe in coming years, government as well as our public will be fully ready to embrace these new technologies.
One of the biggest roadblocks in front of GM technology, which I have gone through with the industry, GM is an IPR based technology which would further push to cartelization of the technology. So how do you see this challenge? Is it actually the problem, or it is just a hoax?
So there were some IP issues as well, I understand that one, but then there are always ways to solve them. The second thing is that now, as we are having fantastic scientists in the country, we are having top class institute in the countries, we can generate, we can create our own IPs, we can identify the genes, and then there should not be much issues. So there is this combination of the different processes. Some organizations like NBRI for instance, even to NABI in Chandigarh, even here in IRI, so there are several organizations, they are now working in this direction.
Youth today is not inclined too much towards agricultural research. What are the ways to motivate them to come to agricultural biotechnology to ensure the growth of agriculture for the growing population?
Yeah, so I think this is where you raise very good point. And what is happening, so now this is when you talk about the youth and especially in the rural areas, both, one, they don't want to do agriculture, and they say because they have seen the situation of their parents, etc., and somehow, as I said, that we are an unfortunate situation that small holding agriculture and who are the main contributor to deliver the food to us, majority of them, they do not live in the good condition. So their children, they don't want to do agriculture. Why? Somehow agriculture in a small holding agriculture community or so is not profitable. So what we need to do, we need to make agriculture as a profitable business.
How to make it?
There are a number of issues. So as I said, so for instance, connect farmers to the market. What is happening? There are many middlemen, and even that what is happening, and there is this. So now for instance, this price fluctuation. Now what is happening, and earlier Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, in one of my interactions with him, he mentioned, now in agriculture in India is dependent on monsoon. If you got the good monsoon, you will get the good crop produce. But unfortunately, when you got the good crop produce, does not mean that farmers will get more money. What happens on that particular year? Prices slash down heavily, farmers do not get. And if you don't have the monsoon, then you will not have much produce, and the prices will go higher, and the consumers will be facing with lots of problems. So what is happening? So in these areas, price control, storage, sometimes you might have seen the tomato, for instance, in India, when they are market, when they are the season, then they are just being spoiled on the road because there is not many buyers or like that one. Sometimes you don't have that tomato at all in the market. You know the situation of onion, there are a lot of things. So what is happening for several of these things? This is the very complex ecosystem, including the government interventions to create the storage facilities, to regulate market price, to ensure. In India, we have the minimum support price, but somehow even the government says the MSP, but farmers are not able to sell, they are selling at less. So what I'm trying to say that there are number of factors. Now Niti Aayog is doing great job. We know that, and I will not go in the details about that one, those 3 farmers law, etc. here. In my opinion, these farmers law, when they came here, they were in the interest of the farmers. And some of the issues which I was telling, that ensuring price, connecting markets to connecting farmers to market, etc. But then again, there were good thing with our country is we are democratic system, so you are always having the opposition, but we should have really clear that what we should be opposing, what we should not be opposing. So these are some of the things.
While feeding 1.4 billion population in the country, we are also called the food bowl for the
world.
For the world. We are one of the leading exporters of rice. We are one of the leading exporters of sugar, which are one of the biggest water guzzling crops. It is said that researchers say that it takes 5,000 liters of water to grow a kilogram of rice in Punjab, while it takes 3,000 liters of water to grow 1 kilogram of sugar. So why? 2-3 years back, I saw the figures that India exported around 10 million tons of sugar. If we say in other words, we are actually exporting our natural resources like water, while exploiting our while already we are seeing that groundwater table is going low. We are already facing the challenges. So why we are so much fascinated with growing so much of water guzzling crops?
I think you have said what I had in my mind. So what is happening that when we are exporting such kind of crop commodity, either this is sugar or rice, we are not just exporting rice or sugar, we are exporting water.
Water. Yeah. That is,
and we are not realizing this thing. In coming years, we may face very serious problem. So question back to us is, do we need to continue to do this thing? Probably not. So what is happening now? For instance, pulses, and India has done a great job, and people like us and many others played very important role in this thing. Pulses, chickpea, pigeon pea, etc. They are called semi-arid tropics. They do not consume that much water. We need to think that environmental sustainability also in agriculture, right? So what is happening? Earlier India used to import pulses. Now we are still importing. I'm talking about 2005 or so. At that time, they used to produce around 16-17 million ton. They used to import 4 million ton, and they used to still have that deficit. India has done great things by using technology, contribution. Now we are producing almost around 20 to 20 million tons. So what I'm saying, even at that time point, I used to talk to the senior leaders. In rice and wheat, which are the staple food crop for us, we need to have enough rice, enough wheat, so that we can feed our population. However, We do not need to produce more amount of rice to export. Rather, instead of doing this thing, now Punjab, we have been producing this rice, and this was in one of these farmers' lots. I think one of the thing is Punjab should stop producing rice. Okay, they should now coming to the cropping system. So with wheat or rice, we can bring some other crops, including, for instance, legumes. Way back before Green Revolution, Punjab used to grow chickpeas. After Green Revolution, whole chickpea area has been shifted towards the South India. Yeah. So these are not the ways, and these were some of the thing. Now what is happening? For rice, you can get the international market. People always think from the perspective of getting the money. We need to think, as you said, natural resources, environmental sustainability. So we need to be very smart, cautious, which crop we should be growing. Only thing is, as I said earlier, and this happens in Australia as well. Even in Australia, our cropping system is also very cereal intensive, wheat and barley. But farmers, they understand, government recognize that we need to bring legumes, we need to bring canola in the cropping system. Now the thing is, if you bring them, but if they are not making profit to the farmers, farmers do not grow. So that's the way the government, these bills, these policy posts, they come in the picture, so that we can make these things profitable and farmers can be ensured. And you know that even because of this, whenever we are having stubble burning, etc., there are a lot of issues because of rice, etc. So I'm not against rice, but we need to see the environmental sustainability.
You have a global perspective today. So what should be the modus operandi for scientists and agriculture researchers and policymakers for sustainable agriculture?
So in fact, I will also add one more pillar here. So not only scientists and policymaker, but also farmers. And I know that we are having a smallholder farmer, so we cannot hear each and everybody's voice. But now in India, we are having these farmer progressive organizations, FPOs, and especially in southern India, you got these organizations which are having more than 10,000 farmers or like that one. So now what we need to do, we need to listen to them. And when I was at ICRISAT, and even at later stage, I used to interact with the Ministry of Agriculture, with the Secretaries of Agriculture. At that time point, Mr. Shobna Patnaik, fantastic secretary. Before them, Mr. Ashish Bahuguna. So I used to interact with them a lot on all these policy issues. So what we need to do, we need to have these kind of, agriculture should be mission based. We should have very clarity, which crop, which technology, which area, even we are talking about soil health, soil mapping, for instance, right? So that we need to do this thing. We need to use a remote sensing technology. We need to see what kind of climate change or what kind of patterns we are having in next coming year. So which area we should be using, which crop, which technology, what kind of decision support tools we need to provide to the farmers, and even when farmers, they are having this produce, how they can be connected to the market. We all would like to see the Indian agriculture profitable to the smallholder agriculture. So in my opinion, there is a good room to work together, policymakers, scientific community and the farmers. And we should always bring the private sector. So private sector can play a very important role. Wherever you see this development growth, private sector always has played an important role. So we need to work in this direction.
In last 10 years, there is a buzzword called Agritech. Due to the penetration of modern cutting edge technologies, today AI, ML, IoT, drones, robotics, everything is being used in agriculture, remote sensing,
Yes.
satellite imaging, everything is being used in agriculture sector. And it has brought good results also. And thousands of Agritech startups have come in line to provide such services to the farmers directly. Some providing B2B services, some providing B2C services, some providing services direct to the farmers. So how do you see the next 10 years Agritech is going to change the whole dimension of agriculture practices in India?
Agritech is the future, rather I will not say future, rather present. So we should start to use them right now. Only thing is, and this is a big challenge in India, because these agri-tech technology, when you use the drones, when you use the remote sensing technology, when you use IoT, all these things, they're perfect when you are using in the large farms. However, in India, we are having the small holding agriculture. Generally, farmers, they are having less than 2 hectares, right? So what is happening when you are having a small farmers, and this farmer is growing one crop, other farmer is growing other crop, or even they are growing the same crop but the different varieties. So for addressing these issues, we need to think in the different ways. And as I mentioned, one thing will be that can we organize these farmers in the form of FPOs or like that one. We can ensure them that you will get this much price, but then we should be using the same technology across 1,000 hectares, for instance. If you will do this aggregate farming, if you bring all these farms, small farms together, for instance, you got 1,000 farmers, each farmer got that size 2 hectare. Now you are talking agriculture, farming in 2,000 hectares. At that time point, these kind of modern technology, in Australia, so in Australia, and whenever I visit the farmers or so, first is they are growers, they don't call themselves farmers. They are having, in Australia, average farm size is 4,000, 5,000 hectares. Some farmers, they got 20,000 hectares, 30,000 hectares. So much land. Oh, what they do, all the farming they do through the technology. In the farmers in Australia, in their office, they go to their farmhouse, they can show the different computers, different things. Rajiv, my tractor is going in this direction and I need to do this thing. So all these things. So they are having the farmer, but they do the smart farming. In India, we do the hard work. So smart
Manual
work versus
labor.
the hard work. Yeah, manual work. So we need to think, but this does not mean we need to kick out our farmers from the employment. So India is a different wall game basically. So because we need to think from the employment perspective, we need to see public welfare, we need to contribute to the small holding agriculture. So I don't say that the same solution what we are having in Australia or in United States or Europe, they're translatable to India. But yes, we can do the customization of those solutions. In summary, by using this Agritech technology, you also mentioned earlier one point, how you can bring these youth in agriculture. These new technology, Agritechs, entrepreneurship, these are the areas that you can attract youth, young people, women, those things from the rural areas, provide them employment, attract them towards the farming. Because for India, agriculture will continue to remain a mainstay, main work for the country. We are the agriculture oriented country.
One last point coming to my mind. Last year in April 2021, we saw that in northern hemisphere across the globe, we registered a 4-degree rise in temperatures, which resulted in the decline of wheat crop across the planet, across the northern hemisphere, whether it is India, whether it is Russia, whether it is US, everywhere there was the same problem due to the rise of temperature. So how it is the sudden climate activities is putting challenges in front of scientists' perspective. What do you think at that moment? How you can bring the solution to the challenges?
So yes, that's true. So what is happening? So as an agricultural science community, and when I say agriculture, so this deals with all different kind of disciplines. So this is not just one area or so. They have this challenge. What they are having, the two things. One is the climate change. When we talk the predictable climate change, so for instance, we know that every year we are having this much degree Celsius temperature increase or fluctuation in the rainfall, or we will be having the heat waves. So to address those issues, farmers or the agriculture scientists, they are already getting themselves ready. We call it, we say, climate change ready crops, climate change ready technology, all these things. So people are working in those directions. However, sometimes we can have some of these sudden changes as well. People may not be well prepared. We are aware that when we will happen these things, we may have changing of the cropping patterns across the world. Some countries which are growing rice, for instance, they may not be growing rice, they may grow something else. Some countries which are growing wheat, now wheat production will be going down, some other crops will start to come. So what is happening, and that's the reason again I will like to bring this Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam philosophy. World needs to be together, as we did this thing in the era of the pandemic. So even, and we have seen, even one country is sick, other country needs to be dependent on that or so, and then we did this exporting or supplying of those vaccines to the different countries. Same thing. Even if particular country is not growing wheat, doesn't matter, they are growing something else, but then this can be exported to the other country or so. So cropping patterns will change, but to help each other, now international community, scientific community, right now, though we are having the geopolitical issues, in my opinion, in context of the climate change, in context of addressing malnutrition, in context to deliver the food to the 10 billion people, these different countries need to come together. Problems, these challenges, they are big one. We need to address
Irrespective of geopolitical
in respect of,
conflicts,
so
yeah.
we do not need to pay much attention about the geopolitical issues, the border issues or so, because these are the very minor thing. We need to think the big issues, saving the humanity, saving, contributing to feed the population. We need to have healthy planet. When I say the population growing this thing, also sustainable agriculture. So we need to have healthy people, healthy planet. And for doing these things, we all need to work together.
Your message to the youth who are opting agricultural research as a career?
So as I said, so these youth in both areas, either if they are interested to do farming, they need to be attracted towards farming as well by using Agritech technology. If they are interested in taking the career in the research and development, they should be taking, because agriculture is one of those subjects which will remain forever kind of thing, because for human health or for human being, you are having two basic needs. One is food, second is health. So now agriculture and medical science, I'm not saying other disciplines will not be there, but these two things will remain forever. So if you are interested, a young person, they're interested in taking their career in R&D, and agriculture is the best thing in my opinion. And second is, at present, we are in the most advanced technological era, and I always wonder that I should have been born, or I should have been doing PhD or doing research now, which I did 20 years ago, because now you got many more spaces, many more things. So in summary, I would like to say that they should not be taking, or they should not be discouraged by small or by the failures. They should continue to work hard. They should continue to deliver. They should have the big vision, and all together we can contribute our bit to address the global challenges.
Thank you, Dr. Varshney, talking to us.
Thank you very much. This was really pleasure to talk to you, and your questions were very nice. I wish you all the best, and
Thank you so
Agriculture
much.
Post all the best.
And all the best to you too also.
Thank you
for
very
your
much.
future roles and responsibilities.
Thank you very much. This is a pleasure. Thank you.
Bye-bye, audience. If you like the interview, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it with your friends, so that they would know more about agricultural research, what is going on across the planet. Thank you so much for watching this video till now.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.